welcome our guest this morning, Will. We have the consent agenda. Hopefully you've all received a copy of that and have read through it.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments. Do we have any interested parties that want to speak up? Here's your chance. Okay. Looks like Lana, we're to you.
Put my phone a little closer.
Okay, hopefully that'll be better.
Can you hear me, Ron?
Okay.
I'll move my-
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you showing up a week early. We'll all appreciate it, especially next week when we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, so thank you. All right, so Prospect 1123-2. This is a Department of Commerce prospect in a statewide search. We've got at least 2 sites that we're submitting. They're due by Friday, and we've met with utility partners and landowners. Steve may have some additional updates during his report as well. Prospect 1123, this is a prospect that reached out to us, actually, having seen some of our land advertisements on the LOIS website, which is the Location One Information Services. Steve manages that on our behalf and puts sites out for folks who are looking for sites. If they do, they can just do a nationwide search, they can do a Kansas search, they can go down all the way to the county. So we felt really good about getting reached out to because of that. And we've submitted 3 sites to them, and they've actually submitted letters of interest on 3 sites, all 3 sites as of now. They're meeting today with their ownership group to determine which they think they're going to continue forward with 2 sites. So, yeah, we'll keep you posted on that one. Prospect 1023, this is a project that we've already met with utility partners on and submitted 2 sites to them. We're waiting on a consultant that's working on their behalf to get back and put together some additional information for our utility providers. 823-2 we haven't had any updates on, except that there is actually steel on the ground. They're in a contract already with Western Kansas Corridor, and we're just waiting on a lot split to finish there. It's in the hands of the county, and we're hopeful that they move through that quickly and get the lot split handled so that closing can take place when it's supposed to. This prospect is in a hurry to get built, so hopefully we're able to get that accomplished. On other projects, we don't have a lot excuse me, that we've followed up in the past 3 weeks. But on housing, we do have a few things moving. Jim Randall does have utility partners out working on his site now, so hopefully he'll be able to sell lots soon. He's had quite a bit of interest in his lots that unfortunately took a little longer to get everything through the process, and now rates are higher obviously than they were, and folks are a little more cautious, but he still feels pretty comfortable that he's going to have several of those lots sell pretty much right away, which is what needs to happen because he does have an RHID that he's relying on.
How many total lots does he have available?
16.
16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're nice, and they're unique lots. We don't really have any of those available right now in the county. His smallest lot is just over 2 acres, and then goes up to, I think, 7?
Yeah, 6 or so.
Yeah, somewhere in that. They get larger as they go back away from the highway. So they're a different lot than what's available elsewhere, so hopefully that'll help him.
And these are set up where you could have animals or horses.
Yeah. We helped him finish up his covenants, so he's got those filed, but he is allowing, pretty much following the county's regulations for animals. I think he might have reduced swine.
Yeah,
Might have been the one.
Yeah.
One of them, I think he scaled back just a little bit to still allow for 4-H animals, that kind of thing, but without having disruption with the other neighbors, if you will. And Steve will probably have some other updates on some of the housing projects, but we are working with Michael Snodgrass, the developer at Hunter's Glen up on North 3rd Street. He's going through some processes to hopefully bring in some additional programs and not have to have that ag worker requirement tied to all of the units there. So we're working with him to hopefully identify some additional options for what he can build there. But if you haven't been by there, again, those units look really good, and they're doing open houses and getting those rented, so they're very nice. Sligo Station, we assisted the developer with doing construction manager at risk interviews last week, and there were 2 that came and interviewed for it, so hopefully that project stays on track. We've, in talking with Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, who oversees that MIH grant, we've told them that we anticipate starting construction March or April. So. And I think that about covers everything we've been working on. Lots of meetings with universities, so 4-year education stuff continues to move forward. We're excited about that. And the College of Osteopathic Medicine will be back out at the end of the month to follow up on some other discussions and hopefully get them settled so that they can get all of their work done. The Early Childhood Task Force, we are supposed to present our plan to the governor in December. And then, unless they call us back, once the legislature's fired back up, in case they need us to come back for something there, we should be done with that task force in December.
How many are on that task force?
It's the secretary of KDHE, the secretary of DCF, basically, and then we have 2 House members, 2 senators, the head of the Children's Cabinet, the head of Early Childhood in the Department of Education, and a couple of private sector CEOs, and me.
So you're really the only at-large member?
The only outlaw or something, yes.
Outlaw.
Yes, and the only one, there's a gal from Salina on there. That would be the furthest west besides me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like Representative Clifford, got a big district.
Okay, thank you, Lana. Up next, Steve Cottrell with Special Projects Director.
Good morning. Sorry. Okay, it's going to be that kind of day.
What day is it?
Clean your refrigerator day.
Oh,
Okay.
I need to
Recycle
do that. Recycle?
Recycle day.
Okay.
Drummer day,
Really?
because drummers can do different things with either at the
I
same time.
guess. Well,
I can, obviously I can.
practice our skills.
There you go.
Okay, on the industrial side, the Department of Commerce set one out, which Lana mentioned. We're submitting 2 sites on it. It's due this Friday. It's a $50 million food processor that needs 15 to 30 acres and will employ 125. On the corridor, final walkthrough inspection was done late last month, and have a punch list they're going through right now. County Commission awarded bids for lift station work at their first meeting in November. I guess so far it's their only meeting in November. So hopefully things will get going all around the county and our sewer district. As Lana said, Woodland is up on Randall Estates, and road work is probably still a little bit out. contractor's got a couple other projects to complete. Well, I told you what we've been doing on Sligo Station, so. And I'm not sure what all other residential stuff you were thinking I was going to report on.
I didn't know if you had an update on Country Acres or not.
No, I don't.
They're selling lots.
Okay. So that's all I've got for today.
Any questions for Steve?
Where's that country acres? What do they do?
It's Gary Spikes out on farmland in there.
It would be just east of the test plot that K-State has between Chapel Heights and.
Do you know offhand how many of the Department of Commerce projects we've submitted and actually gotten?
None that I'm aware of.
None? Okay. That's what I
There-
was thinking.
there-
We've submitted a lot. I don't know off the top of my head.
But have gotten, no.
We haven't gotten.
Yeah.
They have taken two of our projects that we recruited and made them into statewide projects, but they ultimately settled with us because we were the ones who recruited them to the state. But-
I will have that number for you next month.
Sounds good. Thank
If
you.
I remember to throw this away before I can. So before I hurt myself, I'm going to sit down.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Next, we'll hear from Communications Director Scott Ost.
Good morning. I apologize, I don't have a printout for you this time. I forgot my computer when I left yesterday. I'm blaming it on the time change and jet lag. But I did cobble together some numbers. The website, we had about 1,845 visitors. Top stories were LiveWell's multiple grants. They received a whole lot of grants at once, the last couple of months. A KMEA Learning Day, and a Garden City Community College alumni post. On Facebook, we had about 1,700 reach and 1,100 engagements. Again, the LiveWell grants were the top story, along with information about Santa's for seniors. And the community college hosting Hugoton and Kiowa County High Schools for a tour of their cadaver lab and STEM center. On Twix, Twitter, X, Steve found a good name for it.
I like
Twix.
that.
I like it. I think that name might be taken and perhaps copyrighted.
Had much fewer impressions this time, 635, and that's down due to the short time frame between meetings and the fact that I was gone on vacation for a week. So that's mine. Any questions about that?
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, next up, Business Development Director Grant Lindenberger.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so Mandela events, they were awarded funding. We're still waiting on getting sprinkler system finished and an open date for them. And then have 09-23-4, a retail client. I believe I mentioned this last week. We're still waiting to see if she wants to decide on if she wants to go through with the loan. And then I've got a new client, 10-23-1. This is a service client. They've been in business for a while now and working out of their home, looking to find a commercial place to rent or possibly build. They just have to decide on what to do. Then I have another new client, 11-23-1. This client was looking for financing a year ago and was denied a Kansas loan, but we're revising the business plan and seeing what we can do for that client at this point. The current number of SBDC clients is now 28. As far as webinars and workshops from Kansas SBDC, we got through the How to Write a Business Plan. That went well for me. Then we have On November 15th, International Trade Opportunities and Resources webinar. On November 17th, Trademark Essentials, what you need to protect your business. And also November 17th, how to work with U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And that's what I have for you.
Any questions for Grant? Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we'll hear from Shannon Dick, Director of Analytics.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
You're gonna get off easy today. After this, heading up to Manhattan and presenting at the Governor's Water Conference. The work that we did with GND3, the iCare report, that we submitted that and it was accepted to present at the Governor's Water Conference. So that's going on right now, but I thought this was more fun. So I'm gonna head on out there and catch us at the conference and do the presentation. Our session is tomorrow. So doing that, working with KDOT, got some good progress. We got some points of contact at the state to start talking about the numbers and the scoring systems and all that. So getting those meetings set up for December. So I don't have anything updated for KDOT numbers or anything like that, but doing a lot of work on it. Doing research on how some different organizations are looking at truck traffic. And there's a really good study out of North Dakota from the oil boom. They were kind of seeing the same thing that we were when they're like, you aren't saying we're congested by the traditional methods, but we definitely are because of truck traffic. And so they started to do some research, and they really are looking at what goes into the normal calculations. And so the normal calculations, and this is interesting because I didn't really know how normal departments, there's like the federal government, how they view trucks. They say when they're talking about how much does a truck contribute to traffic, it's based on how hard is it for a truck to be passed in a highway when there's no other traffic, and their mix is about 14% of your traffic is trucks. This paper from North Dakota is looking at it and saying, well, that doesn't make sense for us because they were well above 14%. For reference, we're around 40 to 50% traffic on our roads out here. And what they say, also that thing is that when you're passing a truck and it counts in a divided highway. So how hard is it to pass a truck on the interstate?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So they said this doesn't make sense when we're talking about rural roads when you're looking at what those trucks contribute. And the other thing besides having to pass in your terrain and all that stuff is your oncoming traffic. So the more oncoming traffic, so the busier the roads, the more and more trucks contribute to traffic because it makes it harder to pass. You start getting those brigading where you're getting all those things together. So this paper is really interesting. And the numbers that they came to, actually, the number are really similar to the numbers that we were using, that Kansas wasn't using, but we were using to say this is what it looks like. So it really depends on how busy it is, what's your mix of trucks. So the numbers that we're reporting on probably are maybe even on the low side for congestion numbers, and they'll probably only go up as we dive into those highways a little bit more deep. So getting some progress there, some interesting stuff, but no slides or anything. So any questions?
So do they have a separate category for like wind turbines?
No. By default, no. That's the other thing with these guys, because these are oil takers. The big thing that they had up there was oil takers going back, and loaded versus unloaded is very different. And then they were talking about, they had some other combination. It wasn't wind turbine blades, but I mean stuff like that that's extended that.
Sure.
So typically they don't even do that. The other thing, so that typically they don't consider is they only look at one truck at a time. And so one truck at a time isn't too big of a deal. But two trucks, the trucks give themselves a bunch of extra room. So not only is the effective size of the truck, when you have two trucks, it's a truck, a big gap, and another truck. So when you talk about the mixes of what percentage of trucks are on the road, it starts to make a very big difference on how that traffic is getting backed up. So super interesting. As interesting as a read like this can be. Super interesting because it's very relevant to what we've been doing and the things that we've been saying and the things that we feel like when we're traveling around. But they actually went in, did the numbers, got the math, so that might be able to help us make a pretty good case to say, we really need to be thinking about our traffic out here. I mean, 1,000, well, more than 1,000, almost 2,000 trucks that are going on our road. You really can't just count them like 2,000 cars in Eastern Kansas. This is equivalent to possibly 8 to 10,000 cars, depending on how the multipliers work out. So some really good light reading.
Super loads, I think, really need to be taken into consideration and maybe even figured separately from the regular truck traffic. But it's my understanding, and I could be all wrong, I get this from my husband, so he complains about it a lot. Those are not supposed to be one after the other. There's supposed to be an interval where they're not on the road and like not after certain hours when it gets dusk or whatever. And we frequently see them boom, 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 and it's really hard to get around something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that is just you have to get the business done when you can get the business done. And I'm sure they start out all complying, but then something happens in some part of it, and then everything just...
No, they don't. I see them leaving the the facility one right after the other.
Well, maybe they go in different directions.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how they manage, like you're saying, the traveling together piece. Their permits are issued for each individual load, so I don't know how you would make them compliant with worrying about somebody else's load, but we could look into that.
Well, just when they're leaving,
Right.
I mean, they could try to time that. I know that, if you catch up with somebody or you change route and you end up,
And I don't
that
know
would
that
be
there's
impossible.
anything,
Yeah.
that
Enforcement
rule in
could be
place
challenging,
that
but-
tells you that, I'm not sure about that. The dusk and dawn thing is accurate. I don't know about how close they can get to another oversized load, but we can check on that.
And the true solution is build adequate road networks. I mean, that's the problem.
Right.
We're trying to
Exactly.
make all these rules to make our roads work when we see that they don't work. Especially when we're starting to talk about the really heavy stuff. So,
But that is a big factor out here and why we need these 4-lane roads.
And with those wind turbine transports, not only is it the truck itself, but it's also the 2 pilot cars behind it
Right.
and the lead pilot car ahead of it, which never get very far, away from each other.
Yeah.
right.
So it's almost like you've got a small caravan.
You got to pass a parade.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, any more questions for Shannon?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Okay, any new business?
No, sir.
It's easy. Any old business?
You never leave old business unresolved. No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a need for executive session?
Yeah, probably 10 minutes should be
Okay.
fine.
All right, do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. We'll trade off.
There you go.
Okay. Visitors, thank you. You too. Thanks,
Happy
Bill.
Thanksgiving, Dr. Clifford.